Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down the side.
It's the 49er Faithful UK show. It's been a quiet week in 49ers land. I'm not sure we're going to have a huge amount to talk about, but we are back to a full strength podcast team. We're in need of some sharpening up before the season ahead, so we will struggle on. I'm Gareth Ellis, and yes, the starters are back. It's Lee Gowland.
Hey guys, how you doing?
It's Paul Hope.
Feeling pretty good, Gareth. The gang is back together. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And he's always our offensive MVP. It's Najee Karar.
Hello, everyone.
So I think I picked up vaguely some quarterback news or something that's happened during the week. I'm sure you've got something to say on it. I've got a list here at random. I'm going to start with Najee. What did you make of a little bit of news that quietly snuck out during the week?
Yeah, Purdy's a pretty good quarterback, isn't he? I think we can. Oh, is that what we're talking about? That's the only quarterback I talk about. This guy, Purdy. No, that jokes aside. Yeah, we didn't see that coming. We recorded a podcast. We talk about how Trey was going to play against the Chargers, and then next thing you know, he's number 3, and then 3 days later, he's gone. Yeah, bit of a surprise. Although when you look at it with insight, it kind of makes sense, I think, to try and get anything from him. If we're set on what we're doing, which I think we are. Yeah, it's I think it's maybe not the best business the Niners have ever done as a franchise in terms of the whole Trey Lance story.
Do you think he was outperformed by Donald in practice?
It must have been, right? Otherwise he would have not been number 3.
Let's go back to what you do. So you've watched the preseason games, the eye test.
The eye test, no. Donald was a lot less. I mean, that Paul said it the best. I think Donald was meh, and Trey had a bit of upside.
Yeah,
that's what I said too. I'd rather have Trey because the ceiling is higher, I think. But that's not what a backup QB is supposed to do, I guess. Backup QB is supposed to just win you enough game for you to wait for your starter to come back to get to the playoffs. That's, and Trey maybe had not been able to do that. I think the floor was definitely lower with Trey. The mistakes were still there. And, the stats that I found insane, and some things like hearing that Richardson from the Colts has thrown 10 times more pass than he has since, it's ridiculous. The guy's 23 and he just needs to play football, and it was going to happen with us. I think ultimately that's the bottom line. He wasn't going to get better with us because we don't have the time or the space for him. Therefore, try and get whatever you can. And the 4th round, yes, no ideal, but I think we made the best situation out of it. And again, we've got this guy. Who cares who's our backup QB? If this guy's healthy, Purdy, that's all I care for.
Lee Pin.
So, was I shocked? No, I don't think I was shocked. I don't think he was outperformed by Donald. I'm really confused by that when Shanahan's turned around and said over the previous 10 days before he was traded that Donald had separated himself from Trey Lance. That's not what I was saying. Whenever I've watched Donald, he hasn't really set the world alight. He's always made us feel nervous. He's had a couple of good throws in some of the preseason games. One of them was an absolute peach for a touchdown. But to me, they haven't really separated each other. And I'd have preferred to have that potential on the bench rather than Sam Darnold. Now, I understand why he's made the decision, because we're in a Super Bowl window. This is our last. They might be viewing it as the last season of the Super Bowl window, because as I've said previously, we are losing stars next season. It's got to happen because of the cap. So I kind of understand why they've made the decision. I'm disappointed it's been made. I don't really think he's had his chance. A lot of people think he has had a chance, but he's had 2 injuries. He's not injury prone. He broke his finger off somebody's helmet when he was throwing the ball.
Yeah.
You can't legislate for that. And the other one, he broke his ankle when Shanahan's ran him straight up the gut. And you can't really legislate for that either. So, I mean, there weren't 2 injuries that were caused because his body was weak. A little bit like Jason Verrett. His injuries
Yeah.
were caused because his body just could not handle professional football. He had all the skill in the world, but unfortunately, he just wasn't strong enough. His body wasn't strong enough to handle that. So I think the whole he's injury prone argument is moot. It's a moot point. He wasn't injury prone. It just happened. It was a coincidence. I don't think he had his chance. I think he's going to improve. Going to the Cowboys is a bit of a strange one because he's not exactly going to unseat Dak Prescott unless Jerry gets his way. Because we all know who runs that team. It's Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
It's just like when Al Davis was alive. He ran the Raiders. Doesn't matter who was there as head coach. He ran the Raiders. The only head coach that's been there while Al Davis was there, who actually had us here, was John Madden. Let's face it. So,
I mean, you got to love the fact that we sent him to Dallas and see them in meltdown. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny to see.
I don't know, because a few people have already mentioned it, and I agree with them. I could have rooted for him if he went anywhere else. Well,
oh yeah,
not the
no,
Rams.
I would
If
have
he'd gone to the
like
Rams,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm still rooting for the guy because it's not his fault, right? But yeah, it's gonna be hard cheering it on if he wins games and stuff. That's for sure.
The whole trade starts thinking, how could this have worked out? And I was convinced that the way I was going to go into this, or what I was going to find was, had we had those 3 picks, we couldn't have afforded to sign some of the players we signed, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I was saying. Look, we'd have had three first round picks on the wage bill instead of the 1, and I was expecting the difference in cap hit to be huge. It was 1.5 million. That's all it was, 1.5 million, and we could have had Micah Parsons. We could have had Jalen Phillips opposite Nick Bosa on the edge. Those are 2 unbelievable players that we could have had, and we'd only been £1.5 million worse off. So that kind of struck us a little bit, because I thought it was going to go the opposite way, and I thought it was going to be an argument for why it was a good trade. But I still think it was a good trade to go for Lance because of the reasoning that both Kyle and John gave. They thought over the next 2 or 3 years they wouldn't have been in a position to move up that high in the draft and take a quarterback, and they were right. We haven't been in that position. We've effectively given away 2 number 29 picks. There's no way we could have moved up from 29 into the top 3 like that. So even though it hasn't worked out, I think the fact they went for it, they had the balls to go for it, I like that. Yeah.
Well, also, like insight is everything, right? It's easy to say, oh, we shouldn't have done it. It was 3 years ago. On that day, no one was unhappy with that trade. We were all very happy to go up to get the QB of the future.
Do you not think that was because everybody was anticipating McCorkle Jones?
Yeah, no, there was that too, yes. But like we were happy to pick him, right? That's ultimately just revert yourself back to how you were feeling at that time, and we were all super ecstatic to get either him or Fields, and we got him and we were happy. Like saying now that he was a bad trade is just easy, isn't it? Of course, of course he was a bad trade. The player's not on that team anymore, but you didn't know that then, and we just struck gold with Purdy. It's one of those.
So it was a bad trade, but it was the correct decision to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's how I would phrase it. It was a bad trade because it hasn't worked out, but it was the right thing to do at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like John Lynch said, he took the shot. He took the shot and he missed.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, I'd rather he takes these shots than not, because one of these shots will work out one day if he's still here. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen after this season?
The likelihood of us picking up anyone else for those 3 years and those players be good is a crapshoot too. Anyway, we picked Solomon Thomas, number 3, is barely starting in this league. Kinlaw can maybe be seen at there's hundreds of names that have been picked in the first round that are not in this league anymore. We could have picked Mahomes 1 year. We didn't. It's one of those. You can't think like this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything you do is bad.
What makes us laugh when you see some of these people on Twitter who've had a complete meltdown?
What's it called?
It'll always be Twitter, Nadji. It'll always be Twitter.
You're right. I stand with Paul there. It's always going to be Twitter. I think it's funny when you see some of these 49er fans who have had a right meltdown about the fact that we give up 3 first-round picks, as though John Lynch had gone into the home, gone through the wallet, took all the money out, and then went and give it away with these 3 first-round picks. It's like, get over yourself. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make that much difference. We
I
could
think
have had
it's-
somebody that could have played with us for the next 15 to 20 years at a very, very high level. It just didn't work.
I think it's been made worse because the Dolphins flipped the picks. That's the stick I get beat with by non-49ers fans. The fact that, they got Tyreek Hill, they got Chubb, and you see the graphic. But my thoughts on it, Gareth, was, one, the Niners broke the news far too late. I'd had a nice quiet Friday night. I was just getting ready to go to bed.
How dare
Said to
they?
Tracy, I'm locking up. And I saw the first tweet from Rappaport, and this is how PTSD we all are as Niners fans. I double checked it 3 times before I even shared it with you chaps because I thought it was fake. And when I saw trade to the Cowboys, I thought that is a great Photoshop. But then Adam Schefter shared the report. Then Breezy shared the report. Then Jackman shared the report. And I thought, I ain't going to bed anytime soon. And then I saw something on Twitter, Lee, which was, are we getting multiple picks? Are we getting a player? And then the news broke, it's a 4th-round pick. And when you look at the salary cap savings, like you said, and you're right, though, we were transported back to the Zoom room when you mouthed Mac Jones and Nadji nearly had a heart attack. And then it was Trey Lance. And you're right, Gareth, we recorded the pod last Wednesday at 5:30, and me and Nadji spoke for an hour about how bad Sam Darnold was, how great Trey Lance was. And I'm searching the room for bugs, Nadji, because John and Kyle didn't even let the recording get called, and they were like, yeah, we're making Sam Darnold QB2. But when you look at the stats, Lee, in pre-season, the one about Darnold separated himself. Got the stats here. He had 33 pass attempts just pre-season. He completed 22 of them. Now, yes, 11 were incompletions, which PFF considered drops. But he didn't, like we said last week, his performance was a bit meh. He's not better than Jimmy G. You look at our quarterback room this time last year, and if you thought us fast forward, and we would have a roster without Jimmy, without Trey, and we were going to be talking about Sam Darnold as QB2.
Yeah, that's why.
It's strange seeing Trey with number 15. I've seen the first footage today with him with the Cowboys hat on and the Cowboys hoodies. And my good friend Chris has sent me a few cheeky texts already. Lee. Week 5, the script is written by the NFL, isn't it? Trey Lance versus Brock Purdy, week 5. But I think we said it last week, Gareth. I'm not overly worried about the draft picks, but I'm glad you're here, Lee, because last week there was a cheeky rumor that you had inside information, and that's why you stepped away from the pod. But we give a full hour talk, and then they broke the news. I mean, all jokes aside, it's good to have all 4 back, but no, I did not think for a moment, Gareth, we would be trading Trey Lance.
It's funny you should say that, because the day that Kyle Shanahan announced that Sam Darnold was going to be the backup, that morning I almost tweeted to say, within the next 3 days, Sam Darnold's going to be named as the backup. And I didn't bother because I thought, no, I'm going to get absolutely shot down here.
Yeah. You got anything else to add, Gareth? Oh,
I think, yeah, there's been a
it was
lot of
your
meltdown.
boy, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was my choice. I think Lee covered it back in 21. John and Carl had a decision to make. Do we stick with Jimmy, which means we're going to have to pay him? Or do we try and find a free agent quarterback, which means we'll have to pay them and probably lose some of our stars to accommodate them? Or we try and find something in the draft. So I think that was the right decision to go for the draft. I think, as Lee said, we had pick 12. It's a bit no man's land. We could have sat and see how the draft played out, but then you risk not having a quarterback. And I think we looked at the rest of our team and we looked at the salary cap space and thought, what we need is a quarterback. We don't need to be taking a lot of other pieces. We found them all. We found them all in the late rounds. We're chock full of late round players who play like a top first round draft pick. So I think it was a calculated risk that we could do with the cap relief, and we didn't need the players. We needed a quarterback. So I think moving up was the right decision. Regardless of how Justin Fields pans out, I still think Trey Lance at the time was the right decision, because if you've invested all that, swing big, go for the guy with the high ceiling, because you've got no guarantee which one of them is going to work out. So why not go for the guy who looks like he could be the best? And I think ever since then, most stuff has been out of John and Kyle's control. It's been that series of injuries. It's been the ghosted Jimmy hanging around. It's been Trey Lance gets to play one game, week 1 against the Bears, and it turns into a monsoon that no one can play quarterback in. And then he breaks his foot. He's just had barrier and bad luck every step of the way. And you compare that to the journey Brock Purdy's had, possibly going undrafted, gets snagged in the last pick. He's going to sit on the depth chart, but suddenly the quarterbacks in front of him break down, and he's thrust in as the starter. And fair play to him, he's excelled and taken his chance being in that position. And it's that decision. It's a decision to draft Brock Purdy, which makes the Trey Lance trade look bad. It's because we invested all of this to develop a quarterback, and then suddenly went, we found one who's better. And that's, I think, the team have cut their losses, and I think you can judge. It's a results league. You judge it by the result of where we are on the eve of the season. And what we wanted was a Super Bowl ready team, chock full of starters, and a good or very good quarterback on a cost control contract. We've got exactly what we wanted, just not the route we thought it might be. So I'm glad it's all done. I don't feel it's been dealt with badly. I think it's an unfortunate situation, but I think if Trey wanted to leave, then we should honour that and say we're not going to stunt your development and sit you on the practice squad or QB3, because that's not going to improve your trade value, and it's not going to do anything for you personally. And there's clearly nothing wrong with, I think, his attitude or his professionalism. He's just, compare his route and Purdy. For Purdy, everything's just parted and opened up for this route for him to get a chance and take it. Whereas Trey's just had the opposite, and that's the game, and it's outside people's control. And I'm glad it's over. We've got a QB1. I'm glad Trey has got somewhere that he can go. I agree. It's a shame I can't really root for a Cowboy, but if that's what's offered, the 4th round pick doesn't look good compared to 3 first rounders, but compared to what we might have got, it looks all right. And of course, Dallas's pick will be top 10. So
True.
I made a joke last week, Lee, that Sam Darnold was Kyle Shanahan's perfect QB, and it just haunted me that he's heard, he's listened. I've seen some people trying to justify it by saying Darnold would be a better fit for the practice squad scouting job, as the season goes on. And like you said, Gareth, I think a lot of people who got upset, who bought merchandise, who bought jerseys, which I understand, I came close a couple of times to pulling the trigger on a number 5. But if he has to leave, and like you said, Najee, if the team have got an offer, and it rips the Band-Aid off, the distraction's gone. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that we didn't do a pod at the time. I know we tried to get a pod on Saturday, then Sunday. Me and Nick went live on Tuesday and we discussed it a little bit. But I'm glad we've kind of had a couple of days before we put our thoughts out there, because it's kind of all died down a little bit. And like you said, we've got roster cut down day to talk about, and 97 and the meet-up, and we've got lots to occupy us, Gareth.
I think so, and I think we can put the quarterback talk to bed, at least for a few weeks. I think it's a good time to do it. We've got a little bit of time to let the dust settle, and the team can focus on Pittsburgh in a couple of weeks. So roster cuts. The roster is set in stone, and by that I mean liable to change rapidly in the next 24 hours as players bounce around between the roster, injury reserve, and possibly the practice squad. I think the first place to start, really, any surprises on players that made the roster? Anyone catch your eye and thinking it's a surprise?
Well, I'll be honest. I was actually surprised that Oliver made the roster.
That's my name.
Yeah, because I thought he was shocking, absolutely shocking. For what we paid for him, coming in as the number 1 nickel in free agency, he just, I don't know, he looked
make a tackle.
Absolutely, he was really, really bad. So it's given us a little bit of a headache, or it's given Kyle and John a little bit of a headache there. There's talk of Diomedol and all moving inside to the nickel slot, where when we have a nickel on the field, he's still going to be the starting corner opposite Ward. But then when Lenore moves in, then it's either going to be Ambry Thomas or it's going to be Sammy Womack that goes to the outside. I mean, it looks as though Oliver is kind of being relegated to a third stringer at the moment. He's only going to come in if there's nobody else who can actually play nickel. That's how bad he's looked, and that's why I was quite surprised. I mean, I'd rather have kept Jameson, because Jameson, I think, is a huge loss.
And cheaper.
And cheaper, much cheaper. Yeah.
I disagree, but
Any surprises,
I wasn't-
Najee?
No, go on, Paul.
All I was
No,
going
you
to
go.
say on that topic about the cornerback was, Lee, I was surprised like you until I heard Wilkes, like you've just said about the plan to use different players and different coverages. And I think the fact that we were all high on Oliver because he's a veteran, and I think the team was surprised at how he struggled. And I think what they're banking on is in game, in season. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's not here long term. And I'm smiling because your boy Womack was on the bubble, Lee. So he's made it in there. And Ambry Thomas didn't see the field last year. So a lot of people had him on as a roster cut. But again, credit where credit's due. He's buckled down. He's played well. But it will be interesting to see whether they're going to kind of substitute these players in and out. Because I think the plan is to play Oliver against the bigger receivers and the tight ends. That's what they've brought him in for, from what Wilkes has said. And like you said, it'd just be interesting. But I think we were all shocked that Oliver's still on the roster.
So I've got to say, I was a little bit concerned about Womack, but when I mentioned it to a few other different people, a few of the content creators, they all turned around straight away and he says, there's absolutely no way he's on the bubble. He's pretty much as good as a lock for the team. They've all been very impressed with the way he's played. Yeah, he should have had a pick six and he didn't do it because he just wasn't concentrating. But from what everybody else has said, Sammy Womack was pretty much a lock. So I think I was a little bit concerned purely because of the way that Darrell Luter looked in OTAs before summer training camp and the way Jameson was looking. I thought both of those looked quite good. Quantrez Knight, I was absolutely gobsmacked. We didn't keep him because I thought he's been excellent. So there was a lot of competition. We've gone from a weak position group to having a very strong position group, albeit a young, inexperienced position group. And that's why I kind of thought, well, I wonder if Sammy's going to be on the bubble. But no, from all accounts, he was pretty much nailed on to make the 53. And obviously, I'm over the moon he has.
His special teams play as well last
Yeah.
year. You can't underestimate that. But I know
And
we had
this year.
And now I'm just waiting for him to go back to 26 instead of 0.
It's not happening.
No, it's not.
I was a bit surprised on the linebacker, more who we let go than who we kept. I wasn't sure we were going to keep pretty much all of our rookies essentially across the board, but especially at the linebacker group, I didn't think D. Winters had a shot on making it, considering the amount of snap that he played compared to other players. But I'm quite happy about it. I think his ceiling is quite high. I'm eager to see what he can do with some practice and mentoring and all that. So I'm glad. I think it might be one of those cases where we had to keep him, otherwise he would have been snatched by somebody else. I don't know, but yeah, I was quite surprised that we did keep him and Graham over people that we cut. Mike Ball being the big name that I was the most surprised we cut, because especially more because of last year, and obviously it ties with the show because Nick met him and he's invested and all that. It's a shame to see that happening. Apart from that, not really, not really who we kept. I will say I'm surprised that we kept Elijah Mitchell and TDP. I thought one of those two might be a casualty. Purely Elijah Mitchell, purely because he just can't stay healthy. I know he's back healthy now, but how long is that going to stay? And I just thought TDP might, if we're keeping Elijah, TDP might go, because we have CMC and Jordan Mason clearly in 1-2, 1-3. I'm not quite sure after Mitchell, and I'm not sure we needed TDP, especially if we wanted to keep Costello, which we didn't. All that kind of like interwoven scenario. Yeah, just I thought one of those two names could be a surprise cut, maybe. When it all comes down to it, but it didn't happen. So I'm not saying I'm not happy that they're both here. I'm just saying I'm surprised.
I think we
No,
said
I
it
think-
last.
Oh, we tend to need 4 running backs by about week 3 by previous years.
Yeah, but you can
So-
always pick up one, stash him on the pride. We had like 8 or 9 on the 90. So McNichols could have been serviceable number 4, couldn't he? So I just thought maybe, I don't know.
I think with the linebackers, Nadji, I think the team were hoping someone was going to come in, possibly for Flanagan Fowles, but I've just read my notes there. I saw an interesting comparison between Graham and Winters. They reckon that Graham could become Warner's understudy and Winter could become Greenlaw's understudy. And they've said they're a miniature version of Warner and Greenlaw. And as soon as I saw that, I was smiling. And you've got to look at roster cut down there. The team have to decide which players can they sneak through. And I think McCrary Ball, last time I checked, he hasn't been claimed by anybody to get him on the practice squad. And like you said, Nadji, it's quite interesting. We've kept all the rookies. I wasn't expecting that, if I'm being honest. I know we've put the 2 on season-ending IR. Again, I wasn't surprised the Bosa signing because it allowed us to keep that extra player. So I'm hoping the Bosa signing is going to come through. But the fact that we've kept all the rookies is interesting. Jordan Mason apparently is carrying a knock at the moment, a sprained ankle. That could have something to do with keeping TDP around. And he did have a better camp.
Possibly.
I know he's not great at blocking, but again, he's one of those players that credit where credit due. And Kyle Shanahan loves a running back or 2. Or so I've been told, Gareth. So I've been told.
He does. I was a little surprised at Braden Willis making the roster, and it made me think whether we didn't see a lot of him in the preseason games, and I wonder if that's the sort of keeping somebody hidden, somebody who's already won you over in their understanding of the offense and certainly in tight end position, their ability to block. Maybe he proved enough and won his roster spot and said, "We're just going to keep you hidden." And it was Latu who obviously made a few catches, but he's now done for the season, sadly. And I do wonder if that's kind of saved him a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure where we'd have accommodated room for him other than in the practice squad.
It's interesting you say that because I'm trying to think who it was that I heard say pretty much the same thing. That Kyle is very, very guarded with the rookies. He'll only show people what they need to see or what he wants them to see. Using your words, Gary, if he thinks they're good enough, he won't play them that much in pre-season because he doesn't want to put too much tape out on there, just in case he has to waive them and then bring them back on the practice squad. So that could be the case. The fact that he's on the 53 and he hasn't played very much, I think that speaks volumes. I think that speaks volumes to what he thinks of him. And to be honest, when we took both tight ends, Cameron Latu was a bit of a surprise to us. Braden Willis wasn't. I thought Braden Willis was a good pickup, especially where we picked him up. I thought he could have been a little bit higher than that. Whereas Latu, I thought was going to be quite a bit lower than that. And I kind of get the feeling that if it wasn't for tight end U and Latu going over to that with Kittle, then potentially he wouldn't have been one of our pickups.
True. Yeah, I was surprised too. That's the risk of not being able to go to practice and just basing your knowledge on 3 preseason games. Unfortunately, it doesn't really give you the whole story at all. But yeah, we'll see when the season starts. And
I imagine you'll be one of the healthy scratches out of the 53 for certainly the beginning part of the season. But maybe I'm wrong.
More than likely. I'm glad Dwelly made it. I know Lee wanted him gone, but
well, no, I didn't want him gone, but I thought his roster spot was at risk because of Latu and Braden Willis. But like I said, I mean, Latu had a really stinking start to pre-season and too many drops. But he did come on towards the end and he was making some big plays. He was keeping hold of the ball and he actually did look like a decent tight end, which is why I think a combination of the injury and the fact he did pick up towards the end of pre-season, that has saved him. And that's kind of what I was expecting at the start of pre-season. I thought both Willis and Latu were going to be in there and they're going to take over from Dwelly because Dwelly had kind of slipped behind Warner on the depth chart. But as it happens, I mean, we carry 4 tight ends. We have done for a while now because we play a lot of 2 tight end sets. So there was always going to be at least 3, more than likely 4 of them kept.
And we don't have Dante Johnson, so Ross Dwelly's got a role in the team. I know Nadji shared that nugget in the group chat, so that's who Ross Dwelly's replaced in my eyes, Dante Johnson.
Didn't Dante
it's a
Johnson retire?
Bleak roster.
He might
cut
have
day,
done,
you know.
yeah. I think he might have done. That's the only reason he wouldn't be on the team. Otherwise, he'll just resign as soon as he comes out of retirement for sure.
I'm a little
Maybe
bit
he's still
gutted.
there. They've just forgotten. He's been there for so long.
Yeah,
that
he's just
he's permanent.
assume
permanent
he'll be
roster
around.
spot.
Yeah.
We,
You were going to say something, Paul.
Yeah, offensive line. I'm really surprised we let Manning go to waivers.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
boy Nick
I'm not
was
surprised
high on
at all.
Manning. Brad Graham was
surprised.
high on him. I'm not an offensive lineman expert, and actually going off what I knew he wouldn't make it through though. When I saw that he wasn't in the 53-man roster, I'm just surprised the Cardinals claimed 2 of the ones we let go. But
Just
again,
want tapes on our D line. That's what they want. They don't care about the players.
Well, to be honest, I mean, the Cardinals are a bit of a shower at the moment, so any players
Yeah.
they pick up is bound to be better than what they've already got.
Yeah.
I think that says a
don't
lot
wanna
about
improve.
our roster. And
Yeah.
it says a lot about the building that the players we reject get snapped up elsewhere. And I think partly that's obviously on the players and the quality of the players we put together. But I think it also reflects on the team. I think people know that if you've done a good preseason with the Niners, you're probably worth having a look at. So it's no surprise to me that some of these players do get picked where there's roster spots available on other teams. And interesting, we don't and haven't tended to pick up that many players off waivers. I know we're way down the waiver wire list. But I think that's something as well.
We didn't actually submit a single claim.
Yeah, we didn't.
Or didn't we pick our cornerback from Green Bay?
After waivers, we didn't
Yeah,
pick him up
after
on
After waivers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't claim waivers.
I mean,
right, okay.
Jordan Willis has just been released by the Raiders there. I'd pick him up as a heartbeat because I think he's an excellent player
Yeah.
to have in depth. However, who would we get rid of?
I'm going to say
That-
we're
I
waiting
mean,
to sign.
Speaking D-line, I was quite surprised that we kept Kalia Davis. I know he's been injured for a while, but he must have shown quite a bit of practice to stick on over Hyder, who's been in this system twice and knows it. And we did carry Hyder. That's what happens when
And
you go and play for the Seahawks. Yeah. That's what happens when you guys play for the Seahawks. Traitor. But I just think he wasn't as good last year, and he probably paid the price for that. But I'm excited to see Carly Davis, see if he can actually live up to the potential. Because when we drafted him, they had a lot of potential before he had really, really bad injury problem for the last 2 years. So yeah, it's exciting that he's made the 53.
Well, Bryant and Hyder are coming back, aren't they? Because there's vested.
That's what they say, yeah, but
they didn't have to
we'll
go through
see.
waivers, so
Yeah.
they hadn't
Free
signed
agents and that.
when we'd recorded. But looking at what I've seen before we've gone live, it says that there's already a deal in place for both of them, and I think it's to do with the wide receivers, which I know we'll get to. Gareth, there's a couple of injuries on there, but like you said, Lee, all these players that have released, yeah, we can go and claim them, but we can only keep 53. So who would you get rid of? And obviously stealing the thunder of the chaps. I've got my number 10 hung up, Lee. The less trained, I'll say, to Jimmy G jersey. Ronnie Bell made the roster.
Ronnie Bell jersey.
7th round pick. I mean, we were high on him on this show. I know the likes of Breezy have been high on him, but it's great to see him coming as a 7th round pick and make the roster. And I think Shanahan has added another Yak Boy, a mini Debo, from what I've heard.
It's a new John Jennings, isn't it? Essentially, almost. We drafted him in 7th, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I mean, I think that's really good timing that we've managed to pick up somebody like Ronnie Bell because he's been absolutely electric in pre-season, and hopefully he'll help the team get through to winning that 6th Super Bowl trophy this season, so that Debo can eventually be traded with a ring next off season.
Look at you, coming back and upsetting people.
They've started calling him Diet Debo, I think.
Diet Debo.
You do
It
know,
could be.
Lee,
Yeah.
there's a number of the faithful naming their dogs after Deebo Samuel, so there'll be a
Yeah,
lot of upset
yeah.
people if Deebo Samuel gets
It's
traded.
very true. Very true.
So I'm just going to put it out there. I do not offer any jersey assurance. Okay. So
Yeah.
when we do get rid of Debo, when we do trade him in the off season, it's not my fault.
So with all the roster cuts done, or still a few juggling bits to do, what do you think is our weakest unit?
Special teams, because we don't have a kicker.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's a very good point. We didn't talk
Yeah.
kicker at all,
We
and
haven't.
that's very concerning, isn't it?
I think there's not much to say at the moment other than we
I
don't
mean,
have one.
yeah.
Do you not think
Why are
there's
we
an
not signing
expectation
Robbie
there?
Gould? I don't understand why we're not signing Robbie, unless he's just going to retire and he just doesn't want to play. I don't understand what's going on. Unless
See,
he wants too much money.
I think it's just far too strange that Robbie Gould was never picked up this
Yeah,
off season. I think it's very
he's going to
strange.
retire, isn't it?
No, I don't know. See, the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that maybe he had a deal with Kyle and John, and they were saying, "Look, we're going to take Jake Moody. We're going to need somebody after next year to take over from you. We can't afford to have you on the roster at the moment. We'll pick up Jake Moody. Once we get to the start of the season, we'll bring you in, put him on IR."
Well, I'm not worried about week 3, chaps, because Mr. Gowland will be in the stands. So just take your boots, Lee, because you may be needed to kick some field goals. But I mean, I joke aside, I'm worried about the kicker to a degree. Moody wasn't getting cut, but I think they'll just bring someone in. But that's interesting about Gold. Maybe there is a backhanded deal there, Lee. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
it's
there's a lot
just
of
too
talk
strange.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, why would nobody pick up? I mean, look at all the kickers that have been picked up and traded.
I know.
And
I can
Robbie
We
only
were
Gould's
think
not
hoping
there.
to do that with Gonzalez, weren't we? We were hoping to flip Gonzalez for a late round pick, and then to get 2 injured
himself,
on the last
yeah.
preseason game is
Yeah,
crazy.
there's just something off there. There's something not right.
I think it's, he always said he wanted to leave and go back to his family. I think he's either prepared to basically say, give me a lot of money to go somewhere else, or I'll hang around and find if there's somewhere within a few hours of my home who suddenly need a kicker mid-season.
See, I don't know, because he has actually come out and said he wanted to return.
We shall see. I think time will tell.
Yeah,
it's a funny one.
So
So
has anybody got Jimmy G's phone number? Because I'm sure he would tell us. Because he's dishing all the dirt at the moment, isn't he?
I know, isn't it just?
I mean, can't he just wait until his career is over and he decides to actually tell us what happened and what he meant by those comments, the weird situation.
He was asked a question. He answered it to the best of his knowledge.
Yeah. I think this off season has been the first off season when we've started to get little snippets coming out from the way the teams ran, and potentially some discord there.
Yeah,
I think you can't keep everyone happy, and let's face it. If you think San Francisco is weird, wait until he sees what the Raiders are like.
How the Raiders are operated.
Yeah, and somebody made a very good point. Why listen to Jimmy G? He was replaced.
Exactly.
He was replaced by a rookie who was then being replaced by another rookie.
That's true.
And the two people making the noise are two quarterbacks that have been basically pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Kyle's 7th year when I was preparing for tonight. And when you think back to when Kyle took over, Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert, and let's face it, Kyle hasn't been shy with what he's wanted at quarterback. And we're sat here, chaps. We're a Super Bowl contender. You asked the question, Gareth, how am I feeling? We've got a loaded roster. I think we've got the best team in the NFC West. We haven't got the depth that we had last year, but our starters, our offense, we've got a settled quarterback room, dare I say it. But all Kyle and John said when they took over was, we'll turn this team into contenders. 1 Super Bowl appearance, 2 NFC Championship games. We're there or thereabouts this season already. Pundits are talking about us being up there. So I'm smiling because what more do you want at this stage of the NFL season, apart from Nick Bosa to be signed?
That would be nice. That would be nice.
I have some concern about the O-line. I think that might well be our weakest unit. Starters, not so bothered about, but as soon as we go down into the depth, no one really excelled, I think, in pre-season. I think there would be some concern there if we lost one of the starters for the season. We've adapted to it before, but I think out of our roster, I think the O-line is the one that I would point to as being the least strong. I think maybe weakest is not looking at it the right way, but I just think all of our other units are so strong.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's a bit, although Jalen Moore and Matt Pryor did do pretty well in bits last year and the year before. I mean, when you lose your starter, it's never ideal, no matter what position. Corner is a bit worrying. If we were to lose one, or even two, then it's really bad. But you can't think like this. We're just
And
we'll see when the season starts and injury starts piling up. Then that'll be the weakest unit. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
And what about the strongest unit? We've always set out a D line. Do you think D line is still the strongest unit group?
I would say wide receiver. It's pretty stacked. If you look at it, you could easily, I wouldn't mind having Ronnie Bell starting, after what he's shown. And, Debo Ayuk, Jamin Jennings, Ronnie Bell. Pretty stacked. I think they're all good and do things differently. It's not very deep, but it's pretty stacked.
I do think the D-line is still a strength, Gareth. The fact that we've added Hargrave as well when Bosa's back. But like you said, Najee, it's nice to be sat here talking about the wide receivers. Dare we say it, Brock Purdy looked impressive against the Chargers.
He did.
For someone that a couple of months ago, all the content creators were talking, Tommy John, he was going to be out for 12 months. He was executing that offense. The breakdowns that I've seen from Baldy in the QB school on Twitter, he operates the offense better than any QB Kyle has had, and that fills me with excitement. I'm not saying he's elite. I'm not saying I'm a Purdy hater either. What I'm saying is I'm excited for what I've seen.
How dare you?
And let's face it, he gets that ball out quick. And like you said, Najee, he's got a fired up Debo Samuel that looks better. CMC hasn't played in pre-season. So as a Niners fan, Gareth, you've got to be excited. But I would say the D-line's still slightly ahead of the receivers, but there's not much in it if I'm being a betting man.
I think I'm going to agree with Najee. No, I think I'm going to agree with Najee. I think
that doesn't happen often.
I think a wide receiver, when you look at the quality of both the starters and the second strings, it is looking quite tasty there. It's looking quite good. Yeah, the D line's okay. Obviously, the starters are really good.
Yeah. Big unknowns on Kinlaw and all that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's still a question mark on the opposite end to Nick Bosa as well. And obviously Nick Bosa hasn't signed at the moment, so technically we've taken a big hit there. I might throw a little spanner in the works there and say I think the linebacker room is looking really strong this season. I'm really excited about that. Obviously, I thought DFF might have been traded yesterday, but he hasn't. So, I mean, he's obviously going to be the starter with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. But I'm really excited to see Jalen Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember the last famous Purdue linebacker we had?
No.
No.
I didn't even know he was from Purdue.
Keena Turner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying he was I'm not saying he was the last linebacker from Purdue, the last really good linebacker from Purdue.
Yeah.
And everything I've seen from Jalen Graham, I can't believe we got him where we did get him as a free agent, undrafted free agent. So yeah, I think that's looking quite good. D Winters, I think he had a slow start to camp again, a little bit like Cameron Latu, but I think he came on and he started to look good. I think he was just getting up to speed. We've got Oren Burks there, who when he came in, he played really well. So I'm quite happy with the linebacking core now. I was really disappointed that we didn't keep all of Marcelino and McCreary Ball, because I think he looks absolutely built like a brick shithouse. He is huge, that guy. He reminds me of the kind of build that Patrick Willis had.
Yeah.
I think he'd be good against the run.
Yeah.
I think we've got an embarrassment of riches. I mean, I would struggle. I think D-line is obviously a strength. Linebackers look good. I actually think out of the rest of the league, we've probably got one of the best tight end groups for what
Sure.
that's worth. I think our running backs, if Mitchell can stay healthy, that's got to be one of the top rooms in the league as well. Wide receiver, I don't disagree. I think the quarterback room is good and possibly all in all, maybe the best that we've had. I do think that there was part of keeping Darnold around was to have a little bit more of experience behind Brock Purdy. You know, he throws an interception, trudges off the pitch. Somebody there who can
Has been
actually
there,
give
done it.
him advice rather than Trey asking what happened. So I do think that Darnold is better suited to the backup role, even if I would agree that Trey has probably got the higher ceiling. But he's a Cowboy now, so he's dead to me.
I'm still
Not
shocked
really.
that Lee didn't say.
I still want to do away.
I'm still shocked that Lee didn't say the cornerback room was our strength. Sammy, he didn't mean it. He just wants that 0 jersey put in the post if you're listening, and then all will be forgiven.
See, honestly, I do like the cornerback room now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've actually getting rid of a really good. We've had to let a really good player go because we're that good. But I mean, the thing that did it for me from the cornerback room that didn't make them the strongest one is Isaiah Oliver. He's got to do a lot of work to win me over now.
Yeah. Big test week 1. We'll see.
Yeah. So the roster is done, apart from one noticeable absence in Nick Bosa. It's about third or fourth show now. We've talked about no news. I hear rumors that it's going to be imminent.
Yeah, no news is good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the quietest holdout I've ever seen. Usually, and people are freaking out, but his brother did exactly the same. He was always going to hold out until he got exactly what he wanted. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was all a ploy to get an extra man on a 53 anyway. And just take our time. There's no rush. As long as he plays week 1.
Clark's still holding out for the Chiefs. It's not uncommon. And you're right. I think it's been quiet. He's not scrubbed the team from his Instagram or any of the other slightly petulant stuff that.
And he hasn't a picture on the boat and showing himself not doing any work. He'll be ready. It'll be fully. His contract's probably already signed, and they're just waiting to announce it, officially. Not worried. I'll be worried if he doesn't show up for practice next week, though. I'll tell you.
So interestingly, the same content creators who months ago were basically saying, well, you know what, Nick Bosa doesn't really need to practice during preseason because he's the type of player that is just ready to go at the start of the season. And now the same people who are saying, well, he better get signed tomorrow because he needs to start practicing before the season begins. Otherwise, he's not going to be ready.
He'll be ready.
You can't have it both ways. I think he'll be ready. I think
he's practicing every day with his own guys.
He probably is, with his brother in his house, whatever.
Like anything, Lee, you just have to pick the right content creators. I can steer you through those murky waters. But what I will say, Gareth, those people panicking, TJ Watt held out for the Steelers. I think he signed the 9th or 10th of September back in 2021. There was a lot of talk. He wouldn't hit the ground running. Led the league in sacks that year. And like you've all said, I'm not worried at the moment. I think it was just a ploy to the league rules, get an extra man on last night. I think as well, Nadji, there's a bit of ego where you all want to be the highest paid. So I think once the Jones deal breaks, then the Bosa deal breaks. I think it's just a case of, and like you said, anyone who knows the Bosa family, his brother did it, his dad was in the NFL, and there's been none of this petulant behaviour, like you said, Gareth. And I'm plugged in. I have had my summer break. I've been checking social media. The most controversial post he's put was he was at his agent's office in New York, and that sent a lot of people into meltdown. But once the news is announced, I mean, we had it on our own Facebook group last night. I remember being to a Leeds United game, put on what he'd heard at the stadium, and crikey, my phone didn't stop lighting up. I think there's about 3,000 people seeing that post in 10 minutes because we're all kind of plugged in now. The quarterback's done. The kicker news is old because we've signed Moody, but I'm not worried, Gareth. I think we're going to sign him. Just a matter of when and not if.
I agree. I'm still not concerned. I hope that's not going to come back and bite me in the way that I thought Lance was shoo-in for QB2. But there we go. So the roster set. We can look forward to the season. Goldmine game, Lee. Some updates trickling out. I had to bludgeon my way through a rather crude update on the last show when you were still holding out for your contract. So now's the time to shine and earn it.
Yeah, so obviously the Goldmine game is now set in stone. It's Tampa Bay Buccaneers on November the 19th. At the moment, we've got 30 confirmed. A lot of people have already booked flights and hotel. So the hotel that the vast majority of us are staying in is the Rui Plaza down at Fisherman's Wharf. I think there's going to be about 14 to 16 people on the same flight as myself on the Friday morning. So we fly out of Heathrow at 11:05, get into San Francisco 2:15. Yourself, Gareth, you going out at 1:05, and Matt Johnson is going out at 9:20. So there's going to be quite a group of us there. There's a few going out on the Thursday as well. So hopefully by the time you get in there, Gareth, you may be the last person out of all of them to get there.
I'd like to make an entrance.
Yeah. So it's going well. Like I said, 30 out of 40 places have been taken. We do still have 7 people who've yet to confirm either way. So the 7 people who have issued an expression of interest back when I originally put the post there, they have neither said they can't go or they are going. They've not replied to any of the messages. There's one person in particular who's an ex-Brit. Well, he still is a Brit, an expat who lives out in the States. I think he will make the journey up there, but I'm just waiting for him to confirm that. And there's a few that might need a little bit of a prod just to give us the okay. So we do have some spaces remaining, 10 spaces. So if you're listening to this and you think you've missed the boat on that, you've missed the opportunity, get in touch with myself as soon as possible. Tell me that you are definitely going, and then I'll get you sorted out for a space. And it's going to be a hell of a weekend. It is. It's going to be a hell of a weekend.
Yeah.
So there's a few people flying out Friday and flying home the Tuesday. On the Monday night, there's the Warriors game. So the Warriors take on the Houston Rockets at Chase Arena. So we'll be making our way there. On the Saturday, there's the Stanford Cal Bears big game. There's a very good chance this is going to be the last ever game in the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 is collapsing in on itself because it just doesn't have the money to support the teams anymore. I think there's at least four or five teams. I think 4 or 5 teams have already gone on to different conferences. They've already signed up. Yeah, six teams have already signed up to different conferences. Stanford, Cal.
Maybe even 7, actually.
Yeah, I think there's only.
Maybe 8.
I think there's only 4
USC,
left.
UCLA,
Yeah.
Oregon, Washington, both
Cal
Arizona
Bears,
and Colorado. 8
yeah,
teams.
so you've got I think Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, and Cal Bears, who are the 4 remaining not to jump ship at the moment.
Yeah.
Both Cal Bears and Stanford are in talks with ACC, the same conference that Florida Gators playing. No,
Clemson,
the
yeah.
ACC, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm
Florida's
getting
in
confused.
ACC.
Yeah.
Clemson is in the ACC.
Clemson. So yeah, I mean, it's collapsing in on itself, so it could be the very last time that
It's a shame.
Pac-12 big game is on. So yeah, if you want to go to the gold mine, obviously the game day tickets are free. It comes with restrictions. You have to be at the stadium 3 hours beforehand. Sign a model release form so they can use your image. Sign a waiver form so that if you are injured in the gold mine section, you're not going to sue the 49ers. You then go in, have a safety briefing. You're told what you can do, what you can't do. And then basically you get a few hours free to yourself before the game begins. There's potential other perks involved in the gold mine. So depending on the weather and how quickly you have to get the field back in order, you potentially might get on the field at the end of the game. It might be something else something different this time? I don't know. I don't know that it's a standard thing each time. But it's well worth it. It's well worth it, and you're going to be there with 30 to 40 other Brits.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
And maybe he's a Frenchman.
Maybe. It's very much up in the air. I will decide. Oh, not really decide, but I'll see if I can do it. Way closer to the time. Hopefully, like end of October, mid-October, something like that. We'll see.
Well, hopefully there will be a good group of us there. At least 30. That's looking good
Well,
so
30 is
far.
pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
30 is good.
And if you can't make it all the way to Santa Clara, there is, of course, the 49ers watch party in London. I don't think there's any more news, is there, Paul? We keep saying we'll give you news when there is some, and people keep asking, is there any news?
No, I'm smirking because obviously back off my holiday, back at work, Lee has helped pick up the slack on the social media. And between me and Lee, every couple of days we'll get asked the same question. Do we know the venue yet? And Lee has been replying. So we know it's central London. We know it's not going to be within 3 miles of Tottenham Hotspur's ground.
Correct.
So obviously it's the same day as the Ravens Titans. So London's going to have a lot of NFL stuff going on anyway. Lots of fans kicking about. But yeah, I'm excited. Cheeky plug as well. The Irish group have set up the Roan Twitter page, and they're having a meet up in Ireland. So if you do listen to the show and you're based in Ireland, there is a meet up the same night. If you want more details, hit me up and I'll put you in touch. But it's nice to see the fan base growing, and they've been big supporters of what we've done on social media. So they did reach out and ask if I could give them a cheeky plug as well for their own meet up, because I know you had plans, Lee, to go out to Ireland.
I did.
Last year, didn't you? So,
and to be honest, had the guys not selected the Browns game, I'd have gone over. I'd have gone over for the weekend and attended. But unfortunately, it's the same game as the official watch party, so I'll be in London.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So,
But other meetups, self-organised meetups, are always good to see. And I think I can confidently say Paul will always do his best to promote them. So it's great to see Niner fans around the UK and Ireland get together whenever and how often we can. So, lads, I think we've managed to fill almost an hour on our slow news week. Anything else before we wrap up? I think it's you probably all talked out.
Well, just off the back of informal meetups, there's going to be a little bit of a mini UK meetup for the Giants game, the home opener. So David Betteridge, who is on Twitter, not on Facebook, he'll be out there for the Giants game. Lawrence Loftus is going over. Andy and Ord Smith are over there, and I'll be over there as well. So there's 5 of us over there. 3 of us are going to be in the gold mine. And potentially if anybody else is going to go over from the UK, if you get in touch with us, I'll see what I can do and potentially get you into the gold mine. Oh,
fantastic.
And I'm going over because it's my 50th birthday on the day we play the Giants.
Wow.
Nice.
I will just say, on record, Gareth, we did a collection last year for 49. So we're not doing a collection for 50. But just jokes aside, Lee, big birthday for you, buddy. I'm sure we'll have some social media posts to celebrate your big day.
It's going to be a little bit of a different experience for us because every time I've been, I've always stayed in downtown San Francisco because I've always wanted to go in the city. But because I'm going out twice this year, this is only going to be a short trip. Originally, I wanted to fly over Wednesday and come back Friday, but the ticket for coming back Friday was £3,000. Whereas if I moved it to the Saturday, it's because there was no economy left. If I moved it to the Saturday, it dropped to £500. And then I had a discount anyway because of being a BA, I can't remember what you call it now.
Being El Presidente.
Yeah, club thing, BA club thing. So I've managed to get flights and the hotel for £390. So I'm there Wednesday to Saturday, and I'll be staying at San Jose, right next to the airport. I think it is a 2.5 mile walk to the stadium, so it's about a half an hour walk. I'm not saying I'm going to walk it, like I'll probably stupid to do, but it is only a 2.5 mile walk from the stadium. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and because it's a night game, I'll be able to actually turn up to the stadium a lot earlier than I would normally do that, so I can have a wonder about the tailgate before I go into the gold mine.
Nice.
And it'll be a sunset game, I think, Thursday night, isn't it?
It will
5:15 kickoff.
Yeah, so I think just as you're approaching half time, the sun will be setting. So it might be a little bit toasty the first half.
Well, on that note, Lee, this time last year we put a shout out. If you're going over and you're in the group, do hit us up so we can promote it on social media. We are a community.
Yeah.
We do the podcast. We've got the YouTube channel, but at the heart of it, everybody is the 49er Faithful UK. Like you said, Gareth, I will always share the tweets. I'll always share the Instagram. If you're out representing at a game in the States, let us know. And it's always great to see. And if you need a flag, you want to borrow one, I'm sure there's plenty of people in the group. If you stick a post out there before Lee puts another order in, and we'll post a flag out to you. But the season's nearly here, chaps. We've done it. We've survived the off season. Meaningful
Great
football.
segue.
So
Next show is the big one.
Paul's just reminded us. So let's quickly go back to the gold mine game for the Bucks. So the idea was to fill out the whole of the gold mine with 40 people, because that's how many it seats. Now, what I'll be doing while I'm across there, or I can get Nick Clark to do it if he gets tape measure out. I'm going to try and find out how big the area is where we are going to be seated. And then what I would say to the guys that are going over for the gold mine game, because you're getting in there free, and essentially you've saved anywhere between $150 and $200, because they are good seats. They are good, or more.
Or more.
I might ask for a contribution of £10-15 each from everybody to have a giant flag made, like a 15-foot by 25-foot flag.
That's good.
That's
a great idea.
So you can't miss this flag when we're in the gold mine.
That's
an idea I've got.
Brilliant idea.
If they'll let you in the stadium with it, or let us in.
So I've already okayed that. So I asked months ago. Actually, I didn't get the okay, but what I did get was a very positive response to it. That's a bloody good idea. Let's go off and ask safety if they're okay with it. Let's do it.
Yeah, like you said, we've got the London meetup, we've got the relationship, and I'm just smiling because you think back to the off season. But like you said, good segue, Najee. Next show, buddy, you were just about to tell everybody, and then you got excited.
Show. It's a big one, isn't it? It's the ball prediction extravaganza, pre-season preview. This is the one where we go completely mental on predictions, and they usually happen for some reason.
There's a few big misses in there, but it's a miss. It's like the draft. As long as you can hit a few, people will forget the ones you miss.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bite my tongue and not mention one of the players whose position involves using his leg quite often.
No, I'm not touching
because I promised I wouldn't mention it this year.
I'm not touching that with dodgeball.
No,
but it's also the show we're gonna pick a player each that we follow over the season. Now that we know the 53, get your thinking cap on, gents.
Right.
One each. Obviously, you can't pick Kittle or Bossa or Purdy. That's just rubbish. We will talk about those people.
What we're doing. We're going to follow
a player to talk about every week that we follow out of the player that we will inevitably talk about, which is
no brainer for me then.
It
can only be one person.
Yeah, I imagine it would be him, and
I think that's it. Picking someone you think might have a breakout year, rather than one of the established.
Or you're interested in following and keeping the faithful up to date. It'll be fun.
So a little teaser for next week, though. We're going to be slightly different, Gareth. The bold predictions are kind of being done, and I think there's talk off camera, behind the scenes, that we might be doing a little bit different, Najee. Because
not this
every
one.
Week. No, but I meant during
this
season.
One is the big one. We're doing it. Further on, when we start doing previews and stuff, there might be less bold. Most has 9 sacks every week.
You're giving away all the secrets. There's going to be no surprise. I'm going to tee people up for the show because they don't know what surprises we might have in store. But anyway, that's enough. That's a teaser. So thank you for joining me, lads. It's been good to see you, and to have the 4 back for the first time this season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think we've knocked the rust off.
Dare I say, it's been fantastic.
It's been well documented how fantastic it is. So thanks to everybody who also listens to the show or watches the show on YouTube. Don't forget you can like, subscribe, and all that other sort of nonsense because we do appreciate it when people do. And there is also the 49er Faithful UK YouTube channel. And I think you'll be able to catch Paul and Nick quite frequently if you're into that sort of thing. Join us for the next bumper season preview show. It is one that you will not want to miss, I promise. Stay calm and go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Nana gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down.